The air smelled of burnt ham and cheap sentimentality. It was Christmas dinner, the setting for the annual ritual of my family's collective judgment. I was watching the cranberry sauce solidify on the linen tablecloth, counting the seconds until they launched their attack. It was Sarah, my sister, who delivered the blow, her voice tight with self-importance. She was the family's self-appointed spokesperson. "We've all decided," she announced, glancing at my mother and brother, who avoided my eyes. "You should leave and never come back." The statement was not a request. It was an eviction. The final severing of the tie they'd spent decades stretching thin. I didn't flinch. I felt a surge of pure, cold adrenaline. Not shock, vindication. "You finally said it!" I looked at their faces, the smug satisfaction of a unanimous decision. They saw me as the black sheep, the financial burden, the one whose quiet life didn't generate enough reflected glory. Their eyes told the story. "We are finally free of your inadequacy." The emotional conflict had been brewing since the day my grandmother, their mother, died. She was the only one who defended me, the only one who saw the quiet competency beneath my surface. When she left her house, the house we were sitting in, the house they had lived in rent-free for years, to me, the outrage was volcanic. They claimed I manipulated her. They claimed I didn't deserve it. They never stopped plotting to get the deed back. I had been waiting for them to cross this final, unambiguous line. I had been waiting for the moment they publicly, collectively, demanded my removal. Their betrayal wasn't the desire for the house. It was the total rejection of me as family. Before I arrived, I had placed a plain, white, oversized envelope on the mantelpiece, slightly obscured by a dusty ceramic Santa, the one Sarah had always hated. I stood up, pushing my chair back slowly. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. I reached for my jacket, then paused. My eyes drifted to the mantelpiece. "Okay then," I said, my voice barely a whisper, yet it held the absolute finality of steel. "I guess you won't be needing this." I walked to the mantelpiece. They watched, confused. I grabbed the white envelope. It was thick, sealed, and carried the embossed insignia of a major legal firm. I returned to the table. I didn't open it. I held it between my hands and, with smooth, deliberate movements, I started to tear it up. The paper ripped with a dry, sharp sound. Once, twice, into 4 perfect, irreparable pieces. Then I let the shreds fall onto the cranberry-stained tablecloth. "What was that?" my mother demanded, her voice rising in a squeak of alarm. I started walking toward the door. I was almost there when Sarah's eyes, sharper than the others, caught the faint, bold print on one of the torn pieces. Final transfer of deed. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Her face went slack, then contorted into an immediate, terrified scream. "No!" "What did you do?" My brother scrambled over the table, grabbing the torn scraps, trying desperately to piece them together. The lawyer's letter confirmed it. I had been planning to sign over the deed to them, a final gesture of peace, a Christmas gift to end the feud. If they had simply accepted me. I stopped at the front door. I looked back at the scene of absolute spiraling chaos. The screaming, the scrambling, the true horror of their greed exposed. "You wanted me to leave," I said, cold satisfaction icing my voice. "I left. Now you have the house, just as empty as your hearts." I stepped out onto the porch, pulling the door shut behind me. The sound of their frantic, desperate wailing was muffled, cut off. I stood in the cold night air, the silence absolute. I never intended for them to have the house easily. The deed was worthless now. It would take weeks of legal maneuvers to untangle the deliberate destruction of the transfer paperwork, time they didn't have before the estate penalties kicked in. They were trapped. I looked at the snow falling. The cold was cleansing. I felt a perfect psychological detachment. The true inheritance was never the house. It was the control, and I walked away with all of it.